Hey, it's Grumps. That video will be a little bit different. I wanted to show you all how I feel about the game, truly besides, all my usual grumpiness. And what's so frustrating in the game for me and players like me. Hope you enjoy it. We all can agree that the game have issues and flaws right now, and there is no denying into that. We have to divide those issues into two separate categories to fully understand, how important they are. The first one is core issues. The second one is build issues. The core issues are everything which is happening regardless the patch of the game. And the build issues is everything which is happening every single time the new patch is coming in, which is basically balancing of the game, new content and new approach with the new meta. In my opinion, you have to fix the core issues first to even have a good attempt at delivering new content or changes to the current state of the game. And that being said, for me the most annoying core issues are healing delay, invisible grenades and skills, misplaced grenades and skills, lag and latency, movement abuse and cheaters. In my opinion, issues like healing delay, invisible grenades and misplaced grenades are strictly connected to lag and latency, and I'm pretty sure that if I place my bet on lag and latency, most of the issues will be gone. That's why I think that's the thing which they should prioritize right now. Movement abuse, there should be cooldown for strafing. Chicken dance have to end. Hipfire is still really strong, and there is so much thing you can do with the hipfire, and eventually lack of the hipfire on certain weapons, or maybe actually enabling hipfire on certain weapons. That's enormous field of how you can or how can it be achieved. And cheaters, that's definitely have to end. I mean, there is no way that people will be reporting and you will be, they will be just like banning people based on how many reports this guy have. There have to be like a robust anti-cheat in between the client and the server, and that's it. That just have to be. I mean, if you're shooting your Hungry Hog with 2000 RPM, the game should automatically kick you the fuck out. You're shooting your Hungry Hog with 2000 RPM. That's never gonna happen in regular gameplay. So you're just gone, and that's it. I don't know why do we have like this no shaming policy or whatever. Because what? Because somebody is gonna feel offended. A cheater is gonna get offended by his name being out there for being accused of cheating. If somebody accused me of cheating, I'm happy. There is nothing to hide. If a legit person is accused of cheating, then he should be happy. There's no shame in that. And if a legit hacker is being called a hacker, then yeah, he should be shamed. So I don't know. We should name those people, ban those people, and get a robust anti-cheat in between. That's it. Simple. If we can fix only those issues, I will be happy. I don't even need new content to play the game if the game would be played well without any major or game-breaking issues. If the experience is well served, everything feels better, even the current state of the game. Which brings us to the second topic, which is build issues. For me, the build issues are weapons, gear, talents, skills, and quality of life. Now let's talk about weapons first. The major issue which I have with the weapons in Division is that from all this amazing lineup we have right now, 90% of the weapons is just simply trash. Whenever I acquire new weapons, the only thing which I'm looking for is one or two weapons which I'm focusing on, and the rest is simply just materials to sell and stuff. Why I think that sure, in some RPG games some of the stuff will be always trash and it will be always used as materials, and it's a nice trophy just to have it or just to have it in a game. I think some of the weapons are just underperforming, and my major idea of how to fix that would be to buff the weapons which are having like a lower RPM make them a little bit in line with the higher burst fire weapons. And then you have a choice. Either way, you can go for low fire rate but very strong weapon, which is giving you, you know, good amount of damage, stable damage, or you can go for, you know, all in, which is high RPM weapon with still good damage, and if your aim is good enough, you can just simply, you know, burst people to death. But the difference between those two weapons should be a little bit closer. The same goes for all the burst fire weapons. I mean, the whole point of having a burst fire weapon is having 2 or 3 shots shot in, you know, almost straight line, like a, you know, like a very accurate weapon, and that's why people are choosing the burst fire over the, you know, full auto fire. And the major problem I have is that the most burst fire weapons in this game are just simply useless right now. The only reason why people were using the burst fire MP5 in the past was because you could hack, or you can go over the natural RPM. That's why choosing a burst fire weapon should be awarding you with the possibility to have very accurate weapon at the same time of giving, like, you know, certain amount of more damage because you're choosing to burst fire instead of full auto fire. That's also a thing. LMGs are completely useless right now. I think this weapon archetype should be completely reworked in some sort of rewarding for being at distance from the enemy and, you know, providing, you know, fire, consecutive fire at the enemy, so, you know, you're creating basically like a wall of bullets. Shotguns, my idea behind shotguns will be to completely nerf the possibility of aiming with shotguns, but giving them you know, strongly higher damage from the hip. Therefore, it will be like a, you know, like a weapon of choice. You are choosing to having no aim with shotguns, but if you approach the enemy real close, then you can burst them, you know, or just give them, like, you know, this high amount of damage in one shot. I think that sniper rifles are in a very good spot right now, although I think that by sacrificing certain amount of, you know, toughness and you know, sponginess, you should be able to create, like, you know, one-shot builds. Which brings us to the next topic, which is gear. And although I think that most of the gear is really rewarding for using, you know, in a specific way, I think there's also a couple of set items right now which are, you know, completely useless or completely bullshit. And if you can bring balance to those who are, you know, really standing, you know, from the rest, and, you know, bring them all together in one line, which is mostly what's happening already, but I think that there are still very strong ones, then I'll be very happy, and I think most of the players like me will be very happy as well. What I'm talking about, for example, is Deadeye, of course. I think Deadeye is too strong. I think the way how to fix it is that Deadeye should work based on the proximity from the target. If you're further away than 30 meters, that's 100%. If you're 20 meters and further, that's 75% of the crit chance. If you're 10 meters and further, that's 50%. If you're closer than 10 meters, that's 25% for crit chance. And I think that would be fair and square. That brings us to the place where Deadeye is being sitting in the back for the full damage. And of course, you have some sort of a chance to defend, you know, from close quarter damage. But forgive me, but I've never fucking seen a sniper rifle or sniperman or sniper running around the battlefield and just shooting people like he was wearing a fucking shotgun. I mean, that's a joke. And I think that's simply just something which shouldn't be in a game right now. And I hope they will do something with that. The next thing is Hunter's Faith, aka Hamish set, which is basically one of those sets which is also, like, you know, wrongly designed in my opinion. I think Hunter's Faith as a, you know, direct answer for the Deadeye should be, of course, awarding you with the headshot damage, so you have to be precise, but the further away you are from another user of the marksman rifle, therefore more damage you should be mitigating from, let's say, sniper rifles. You'll be getting the same damage from, you know, from any other weapons, and, you know, that won't be, you know, overpowered in any other way, but you will be getting more armor versus snipers. Therefore, you can position yourself, and, you know, with right shots you can pick the snipers up. I think that should and probably would save the set. Banshee should be definitely reworked. That's a set which isn't doesn't have any value except the damage. If it comes to some of the players and the fact that you don't lose XP or money in DZ right now. Also things like Final Measure, which is a very nice set, but it's very annoying when you're eating your own grenades. That's a simple fix. Just you are not able to defuse your own grenades, and voila, a set is saved. Nimble, in my opinion, should stay in a way it was. It's still possible to res yourself with Nimble, so I don't know. I think that that burst of healing was actually providing you with a nice escape route, and if somebody was just like trying to hunt you down, you eventually will be able to escape. I think that was wrong to change it. Also things like Savage Gloves, which should just simply give you 7% more crit chance and not 7% on a target or whatever, and most people don't even know how the hell Savage Gloves are actually working. Short bow knee pads are also a thing which should be like approached somehow. Those are the only possible offensive knee pads for a high-end build, for example, in a whole game. You have Prosperous, you have Accomplice, which are basically useless for for PvP. That's why you see so many short bow knee pads in a game, and it's annoying. I know grenades are annoying, and although I think if you want to experiment with short bow knee pads, maybe instead of that fuse, just give us the ability to defuse the grenade by ourselves, so you can, let's say, make traps or something like that. That would be a nice change, and that should provide you with more cover and based shooter experience, where you are setting up perimeter and just defending it from let's say agents and stuff like that. That's something which is way more useful in my opinion than just grenade spam all over the place and just shocknade. It doesn't work I think it was intended to work. So let's talk about talents. I think some of the talents in 1.6.1 specifically are really underperforming, but let's just go through all of them to have an idea what we are talking about. Adrenaline. Because of the high burst damage, I think Adrenaline right now is just useless. Of course, any source of healing is a good source of healing, but like I said, if you have to use your medkit and somebody is bursting you, even though you're taking that healing while the player is shooting you, you still will get bodied most likely, mostly because of the animation of popping the medkit while the player is actually bursting you. Triage is working fine as far to my knowledge. I'm using that very often, especially in a group play. Shock and Ave, I think that talents still have to be looked onto, because if you wear this talent and you randomly move around DZ, for example, some of the enemies will randomly put them in the suppress mode, or and you will get that 25% boost if you're in the proximity of those enemies, and that's happening actually very often. And yeah, go ahead, check it out. I think it's a nice mechanic, but it definitely should be looked onto. Battle Buddy, I think, because of the fact that it takes you right now 5 seconds to rest an ally, I think it should be interesting for the users of Battle Buddy to for Battle Buddy to work with Defibrillator. That'll be a nice change. Critical save, I think we should go back to the previous values of critical save, just because of the fact that time to be killed right now is a little bit lower than we had before with this talent. So the original values should work really better right now. Shrapnel is working fine with my knowledge. You have to use your medkit to cleanse it, it's fine. Combat Medic, as far to my healing skills, I think it's working pretty okay. Strike Bag, in my opinion, should work by based on damage. Certain amount of damage taken will proc this talent, because if you're going to low health, there is really low chances that you will actually come back from it, especially when you're playing in a PvP. Tactical advance, a nice change over here will be if the tactical advance will stay for 10 seconds while you're staying in cover, but go out, but if you go out from the cover, it will, it will have 5 seconds cooldown. So that would be a nice change to actually do the cover to cover move and then stay in the cover for that additional boost. Demolition Expert, additional, according to my knowledge, is working fine. Police Up is a nice PvE talent, also can be used in PvP, although I wasn't a fan. I have no idea how we can make it, interesting, but I think it, some of the mechanics should be PvE, most, PvE oriented, some of the mechanics of the talents should be PvP oriented, and therefore there's a difference between, different setups, and it actually makes sense to swap your talents in between, back and forth. The Fear Tactics is working, okay with me. Evasive Action was working pretty nice with Nimble. I already talked about Nimble. Tech Support, I think, purely PvE as well, but heavy usage in PvP if you're like a skill-based character. Well, Wildfire, especially right now, is very annoying and it's working fine. Death by Proxy gives you stats to your skill power. I think it's okay. Maybe we can, try with 15%, let's say. Maybe 20 is too much, I don't know. Steady Hands, because of the fact that if you go in cover, you still get some, small amount of additional recoil and stability. I was never using Steady Hands. Maybe it will be nice to change it when you actually go in cover. You get, I don't know, additional accuracy and stability and and reduced recoil. So it's actually worth because you get some 3 things instead of just reduced recoil. On the move is working fine, although I think it's similar to critical save, and those values should be going up a little bit, so it's actually makes a difference. Precision, I think Precision is one of those talents we definitely should look onto, since it's very interesting talent. When you shoot a headshot, you get additional critical damage, even though it's not being said over here. And the only problem with Precision right now is that you have to use Precision first and then Pulse. So there is no reason to being precise, and if you already pulse the enemies, right? And if that will stack up on pulse, so you pulse the enemies, you know where they are, but then you're being awarded for being precise, and you get additional damage, and you pulse them for a longer period of time. That should be that should be interesting. And even though I like this talent a lot, I stopped using it at some point because the amount of pulses around which are going off and amount of players which are using pulse is very big, so it makes this talent irrelevant right now. Chain Reaction, I think it's interesting especially for the air burst users. Desperate Times, I think it would be nice if it actually proc not the blind fire but the hip fire. And if we get some changes to hip fire, which I already talked about, that this is one of the core issues, maybe that will make this talent interesting again. But excuse me, but I've never seen players like using blind fire efficiently, which is staying in cover, because nobody stays in cover. I think Stopping Power is a nice talent. I think it's just the fact that it works purely in PvE, and I'm fine with that. Like I said before, there should be some PvE and PvP talent. I was never using Reaper because I was never because of the fact that I was never finding myself out of ammo, and there's always a cache around. So I think that talent should be something different, like for example kill a hostile with with a primary weapon to get additional random grenade from top of my head, just an idea. And One is None, I think that talent is really broken. It still can jam your gun. It's very nice talent because you can extend that duration of your precise burst when you're aiming for headshots. But like I said, it's still broken because there are situations where it jams your gun, especially when you're trying to reload manually during shooting those headshots. And like I said before, most of the talents feel underperforming right now, mostly because of the shortened time to get killed. And I think with certain changes around those talents, we can make them interesting again. That's just my ideas and my opinion. And now let's talk about skills and your abilities. I will just go briefly through the 3 trees so we have an idea what we are talking about. Pulse. I don't have any problems with Pulse. Pulse is working fine. It serves its purpose. I think all the options are viable options for PvE, PvP, and PvE and PvP, and Master Mod is perfect. I have no problem with Pulse. I think it's greatly designed and a good, skill. I like the changes to healing with 1.6.1 and 1.6. I think you have to really work your ass off right now with skill haste and electronics, and somehow combine those two to have really efficient healing. And the only problem which I have is defibrillator, which most of the time doesn't fucking work, and you have to really res your teammates manually. And I think if you're being shot by defibrillator, it should definitely cancel all the other all the other sources of resing you, and just instantly res you. Exactly the same goes for recovery link. So it doesn't matter if you're being healed by a box, if you're being healed manually, if somebody is healing you manually, if somebody is, I don't know, throwing you a revive box or using a recovery link. If you're using recovery link or defibrillator, it goes on top. You're being rest automatically. And I think that most of the issues with defibrillator right now are connected to lag and latency, which I believe it still affects all the other modifications as well. But defibrillator probably the most. And like I said, healing, I don't have problems with any healing. The only problem with healing I have is the delay, which is I hate hearing the sound of the healing popping off, and then I'm on the floor looking for spare change. Master Mod is nice. I don't have anything against it. The same goes with support station. So healing delay, which means that you are unable to place the station down. Sometimes you rely on the station to the point where you're just trying to move around, place the station, get the overheal from the Master Mod, and that is really nice mechanics and technique to to heal you. Just let me put that box on the floor at all. And I mean, something has to be done with that, because if you're near a wall, if you're near some sort of obstacle which is basically everywhere, and if you're not placing it open widely, you probably most likely end up with pressing the button twice and just running further. So I think that should be definitely looked onto. And the Master Mod, like I mentioned, is really nice. Recovery link, the same issues with healing, which is basically delay, unable to heal players, and I think it should be looked onto. Sticky bomb right now, probably not very often used. The only modification I was using recently was actually Disruptor, which is really nice because you don't have the cooldown and you can just disrupt enemies, and I think it's really good. Although it brings the question what we are going to do about the two other ones, because Flashbang is totally useless, and BFB, I haven't seen so much BFB in PvP, but maybe in PvE. I have nothing to tell you about right now because I haven't been using those in a while. Turrets, I think turrets are doing really good amount of damage if you're really running a good electronic skill build, and I think that's actually pretty okay. I don't have anything against turrets, because it's if you know that the turret is tough to kill, you just lay back or EMP it or something else, right? The most problems which I have with turrets is they are fucking misplaced. So even though that the turret is placed on the floor, it's actually not there. It's a meter to the left or a meter to the right. And the worst case scenario is that the turret is in the middle of the air. You will assume that it's below, and it's actually misplaced on the left or on the right side, and that's what really makes the turrets really annoying right now. I think they are in a really good position. I think they are a great skill, to be fair with you. I know they are really annoying, but the annoyingness of those skills is coming mostly because you cannot get the source to kill. I've seen many turrets glitched into the floor, glitched into car wheels, and stuff like that. So yeah, if we can fix those issues, I don't think we will have problem with the turrets. And the Master Mod, I think the Master Mod is a little bit annoying and should definitely not affect you. And I think it's a nice addition, but we can somehow overthrow and maybe make it something different. I'm not gonna lie, this idea actually comes from somebody on I think I read it somewhere on Reddit, and I think it's actually a fucking great idea, which means that if you try to explode the turrets, you know, if you explode the sensor, you will basically just pulse. If you explode the fire turret, you have a chance to get people on fire. And if you explode the zapper, you basically have a chance to get the people on zap. And it's a great idea, but we have to look onto it, right? Because, for example, if you combine this with wildfire, it might be deadly. Seeker mine, I think seeker mines are really fucking annoying right now. I can't stand the idea that somebody is two-tapping a button and it's providing him more damage than, you know, me with my positioning myself, with using pulls, with combining my, you know, healings with my friend and stuff like that. I think it's really annoying that somebody can just go through, like, you know, all the certain skills, like, you know, chain reaction, boost his damage to, you know, explosions, and then put this, you know, turret. Of course, I think that you should be able to, like, you know, to work it out somehow, right? So let's say you get 30 stacks of, you know, you get 30 stacks, you get talented, you get death by proxy, you get, you know, chain reaction, and you proc the demolition expert, and that's the time where you can actually do like a, you know, like a one-shot kill. But it shouldn't be like every single fucking seeker mine. Not to mention that you have teams where there's like more than one. There's people who are using 3 seeker mines and Deadeye. I was using that setup. There are people who are running full fire teams with, you know, with seeker mines and turrets and stuff like that. It's really annoying. I'm not even saying, you know, like it's easy to use. It's annoying for the other side. It's depressing that, you know, you are working on your aim, you are working on your skills, you are working on your movement, you are working on everything, and somebody just gonna come in having 2 fucking days in the game and just gonna like 2-tap you, you know, with automatic skill. It's really depressing, in my opinion. It makes it so fucking casual that soon we will be able to play the game with a fucking guitar from Guitar Hero. But that's just my opinion. The modifier for PvP have to go down. I mean, have to go fucking down. I mean, I can't stand this skill. Like, literally can't stand it. It's skillless. End of story. Move on. Gas charge is really nice for PvP and PvE, and believe me, if you combine gas charge with, let's say, MDR, it's having really nice effects. And clusters, which are still very strong because they apply a bleeding on you, and if somebody have like a really high skill build, that's gonna apply a really strong bleed, and you can only cleanse it with medkits. I think it's fine. And the master mod is, you know, basically like, you know, the mine can bounce onto and lower covers and can move directly towards the target, which basically makes it like a fucking robot going towards you. Tacticaling, I think it's fine. I don't have anything against tacticaling. I think it's if being used properly, sure, it should wipe, but, you know, you're using your ult, so why not? Ballistic shield right now, the only problem with ballistic shield which I have is that most of the times I'm being killed with ballistic shield, I'm actually behind the ballistic shield shooting the guy in the back, and he's shooting me from back of his fucking head, and I'm getting bodied by, you know, by his burst damage. So if we can, you know, sort out the lag and latency, which, you know, and placing the player correctly to, you know, to the other player, that will be really fine. Because right now I don't know if I'm actually shooting a guy back, or, you know, or I'm shooting his shield because, you know, he's already like, you know, facing me and on his screen, but on my screen he's still, you know, turned back. So yeah, I think most of the frustration, in my opinion, and in my gameplay, comes definitely from, you know, from misplaced skills. I also like had nothing against, you know, shield. I think it serves its purpose, and I think it's actually a fine skill. Smart cover, we already been there. Smart cover meta was, you know, 1.3 meta. I think that skill was completely, you know, nerfed, and it's completely useless right now. Although I've seen some people using Trapper very offensive way, you know, like by throwing it on certain, like, you know, objects, and I think it's really, really nice. But other than that, I've barely see people using, you know, smart cover anymore, which brings up the question, maybe we can, like, I don't know, buff it a little bit again. I don't mind, like, it should provide you with, you know, additional stuff. And, you know, basically if we can, for example, get rid of the master mod or change the master mod, you know, it will provide you with boosts only in cover. That's it. You will just stay in cover. and I think that's all we want, right? And the mobile cover with with the current glitch, which provides you with, like, if you have like adept on your gun or competent on your gun or something else which is being procced by using skills, you can just basically place your mobile cover down and hide behind it, and you will proc your talents. And I think that should definitely go away, and I think they're working on it. So if we can buff those mobile covers, I would definitely like to use smart cover with mobile cover combo, and provoke players to attack me with this high tankiness on me. I'm fine with that. I'm ready to try new tactics, but it's just give me the opportunity to. And survivaling, which, like we all know, is it doesn't give you the the increased speed, and right now it's, of course, it's good, but I think it should be a little bit stronger than that. I mean, the whole point of using an ult excuse me, the whole point of using an ult is basically to grab to grab additional protection from the enemies, right? And I've seen people killing people on on survivaling, like, easily. So I don't think that ability serves its purpose right now, and I think we should definitely work on that. And now let's talk about quality of life. I mean, recently we had a couple of patches which introduced us with a lot of those glitch spots, or unable to, like, pick up certain ecos, or just to recent loadouts, right? I think all of those changes are really important because they bring overall a good quality of an enjoyment and enjoy to the to the activities you're doing every day. I think one of the first things I will do to get the quality of life a little bit better, I will completely change the DZ to solo and group play only. Why? For the same reasons you have solo and group play in survival. There's many players who are just going there solo, and they just want to go solo. They don't want to be ganked by groups, and they want to, like, they just want to farm this shit, play a little bit of PvP and just go back, and that's it. And I don't blame them. And being ganked by 4 people at the checkpoint or at the safe room, and not being able to to go out and being clapped on, it's not necessarily the the best environment to do. That's why one of the things I would go for would be just solo DZ, exactly like in survival. The next thing I wanted to talk about is underground. Underground right now is the place where nobody even goes for the vendors. Which brings the question, why is it even in a game right now? So let's do something about it. I know that there's plenty of content apparently coming in 1.8, plenty of changes coming to to PvE, or some seasons in 1.7, and I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the current state of the game, and maybe I will cover something which will be introduced later on, or maybe I will just give somebody an idea. But like I said, for me, the underground is being completely unplayed right now. If it comes to survival, probably one of my biggest issue with survival is that survival wasn't random at all. You have specific routes, specific things to go through, specific bosses to kill, and you always would expect the same things, mostly in the same spots. And that brings my question, why do you even want to bother with survival if it's not random? Because you can be rest on the wrong spot, and it's basically like game over. You won't be the first, you won't be getting the points, you won't be getting the landmarks, or you won't be getting enough things, right? And I never played PvP survival because I'm not I'm not like a masochist. But for the people who play PvP survival, maybe some sort of battle royale. I know that there is an idea over there to to bring some sort of battle royale, and as far as I know, there isn't such a thing on consoles anyway. So maybe that's a good idea to actually bring it to to consoles and PC. I wouldn't mind it, even if I wouldn't play it. I don't mind. No, whatever enjoys enjoys the people. if it comes to, you know, another quality of life improvements, the issue probably which I had the most is that the useless, you know, useless blueprints. I think some of the blueprints should be really hidden in the world, like, you know, they should be like only acquired by doing certain things and you know, certain activities, or, you know, a bigger journey through, you know, through the game, or actually discover a new side story or something. I think nobody gives crap, you know, about, you know, blueprints right now, unless they are in the vendor and they are actually for a good weapon. And yes, that MP5 ST for PS4, for example, that's the only thing people are caring about. You know, it happened like in, I don't know, 1.4 or 1.5, and people are still going and asking for it. And of course they are, because that's a good weapon, right? So maybe just hide it in the world, make people, you know, acquire new sorts of blueprints, and, you know, make the crafting viable again. Because for, you know, right now, unless I want to craft deadly prepared and competent SVD, I'm not trying to craft anything. And that's the whole point. Crafting is useless, so getting the fabric and all the, you know, all of the sorts of other materials is useless, you know. Getting, you know, going into Dark Zone is useless because you don't necessarily farm anything over there. I mean, there was a reason to go for the Dark Zone when you were at least grabbing the Division tech. Right now, you don't even have to, you know, grab Division tech for anything actually right now, unless you want to like spend some, you know, spend some on you know, buying or refarming. I mean, recrafting the, you know, crafting into different mats or something. But I've never used those in a while, and I think it's a waste because they are still out there, and we should do something about those. And if we are on the crafting topic, why I cannot craft like, you know, 20 SVDs in a row? I mean, even if I want to spend, you know, actually mats for crafting 20 SVDs, I cannot craft the number I want. I think, you know, of course, yeah, I can just, you know, press the button 20 times, but it would be way nicer for me if I can just craft those things, you know, in a big group, in a big pile. I didn't touch gun skills and gun talents for a specific reason, because I think that, you know, the whole point of having different guns in the game is to have, you know, them with different talents and working them with different talents separately. And, you know, and I think the only good quality of life improvement right now, according to the talents, will be to actually nerf the adept. I mean, I know some people are thinking that this is working as intended, but I don't think that it should work like that. And you know, having 7.5% boost to your critical hit chance on your build is still probably enough. Or make it at least stack it twice, but not 5 times. And that's basically it. That covers what I really think about 1.6.1 and, you know, the current state of the game. I think there's a lot of improvements to come. I specifically, you know, didn't touch, you know, 1.7 or 1.8 because, you know, first of all, I don't know nothing about both of those patches, and second of all, I think before you drop any new content or any new way of, you know, playing the game, you should just sort out, you know, the current state of the game. The game isn't in, you know, in a bad shape, but it has some really annoying issues. I will be always defending that game. It's a really solid piece of experience. It's just at certain time, and at, you know, after certain time spent into the game, it's gonna be starting to get really frustrating, and you will get really frustrated by it. So yeah, I'm still holding my fingers crossed. I still think that there is a lot of things that we can enjoy in this game. I still love this game, despite all the grumpiness and all the, you know, frustration which comes with it. But I really want to see it grow. I don't want to see it fall down. And yeah, let me know what do you think in the comments below. Rant me, roast me, say I don't give a, you know, say that you don't give a shit, or I don't know. Feel free to have your own opinion. Like I always say, opinions like an ass. Everybody have one, and everyone is entitled to have one. So I know that there's a lot of ideas in the community which, you know, which can be bring to the table, and I think that there's a lot of room of this to discuss all of those. And all I can say is just, you know, bring it, say it, bring a video, say it on it, say it online, say it on a stream, comment, make a comment on, you know, Reddit, forums, whatever. Choose the plays and just provide your feedback. Let's really make this game better. I wish you happy hunting, nice rewards, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!